Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and tonight I have a special guest for you guys. Not that they're not all special, but this one's a little bit more special. His name is James B. McDaniel. You guys may remember him from that little show, Haunted Live, that everybody really was talking about, and Haunted Salem Live. And he's, I know most of you listen to all the paranormal shows, so I know you guys are going to remember him as being the social media guy for both of those shows. And very high energy guy. And I know that when I first saw him, I really liked him. Didn't like Sparky much, but I really liked James. So welcome, James, to the Paranormal Pride.
Denise, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be your guest tonight.
Oh, I don't know if you know who I was referring to as Sparky, but the first guest you guys had on Haunted Live.
On Haunted Live.
Yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm watching him and I go, what they say his name was? And my husband said it and I go, no, his name's Sparky. And he goes, what? I go, no, his name's Sparky. And I would tell people that they go, well, what do you think of Haunted Live? And I go, well, I said, I like everything except for Sparky. I just don't like him.
Not big on Sparky. Absolutely.
And every time, and then, a couple weeks later, somebody else had posted something about Sparky and I was like, oh crap, it stuck.
It's caught on. It's making the rounds now.
But when they changed the host, I really like the new guy. I like him a lot better. He seems to fit with the Tennessee Wraith Chasers and your personality a lot more than isn't that Dee Snider's kid?
Yeah, it was Jesse Snyder, which by the way, he is a really good guy. He's really into the paranormal, and he just again, it just wasn't the right fit. He's a great guy. I adore Jamie Kaler. Jamie Kaler is the perfect fit, I think, for that show. And I'm glad they had him and me back. I'm glad I was invited back for a Haunted Salem Live. I think he works well with everybody he's been paired with so far. I really liked him with Dave Schrader on Haunted Salem Live. He was great with the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. I'm just really glad that he and I are really close friends now. And he's just he is a phenomenal professional.
Yeah, I just didn't think he fit with the show. It wasn't that I didn't like him personally. It's he just didn't fit with the Southern boys.
No, that's the thing. The entire thing, again, I'm Southern. The Tennessee Wraith Chasers are Southern. And he had this, again, he had a ton of energy, but it was almost like it was too much energy, just a little too wired for what we were presenting, I think.
Yeah, it seemed more like New York versus New Orleans.
Yeah,
or Tennessee.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And see, I'm from Baltimore, so I recognize, and I used to live in New Jersey, so
okay.
I recognize the things that I don't like about me and other people. and And
a little bit of a mirror right there.
Yeah, and it wasn't like I told my husband, I said, I don't know, and because I went out there and I researched him, and I was like, oh, Dee Snider's kid, he played football, and checked him out a little bit, and I was like,
yeah.
I said, there's nothing about him I shouldn't like. I said, it just must be this chemistry, and so the chemistry was just way off, and maybe he'll come up with something else that he can be in that will fit better. Maybe Motley Crue will start a ghost hunting group and he'll fit.
I'm trying to remember the name. There's a show that's been on for years that he's the voice of. He does voiceovers on it, as in he's the host, but you don't physically see him, and he's done a great job of that. He writes a lot of comic books. Like, he's out there doing a lot of work. But yeah, that one just was not the right fit. And I think that change to Jamie Kaler worked really well in the end. He
did. He's more calm, and the focus stays on the things it's supposed to stay on, as opposed to the look at me.
Yeah,
that's
how
I
what you're saying there. Yeah, Jamie's a great. The thing is, I think Jamie, you can take him and fit him in almost anywhere. He's very professional, very adult, and not to say that Jesse is not professional, not at all. He's just he's a different type of guy for a different type of show. And with Jamie, he basically he takes your focus and then puts it where it needs to be. And that's not on him. It's on the Tennessee Wraith Chasers and on the ghost hunt. And I think that's something, I don't know if that's something it takes years to learn. As in, Jamie's a little bit of an older guy than Jesse was. But it's something that he has absolutely mastered. And I hope we get to do some more of these in the next year. And I hope Jamie and I get to be reunited on another live show, because that was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I liked Haunted Salem. There was just a couple of the people on there that I know personally from I used to be the tour guide at the Sally House in Atchison. And so I had an issue with one of the people that now has a show, and it was because of his there's a special word, integrity. is what and like I said, when you are at a place that they hang out at all the time, or did up until 2 years ago, I knew more about what was not true than everybody else, because I was the one that cleaned it up. And but yeah, I love the Ghost Brothers. I think that they are super, first of all, funny, but second of all, very serious.
Yes. That's one thing I don't even know quite how to describe it. One of the things I said when I started doing these Facebook watch parties on their show, because when their show came from Destination America, my local cable company didn't have Destination America. So they were all new to me. I heard a lot of people talking about them. So I'm like, okay, I want to watch this, have my fans come watch it with me, my friends and fans. Mm-hmm. And I thought, number one, they do bring a level of humor that I really enjoy, and that they're not making fun, but they're having fun. And there's a big difference there. Mm-hmm. And number two, I felt like, I don't know, there was almost like this masculinity where when they walked in the room, you felt very, I don't know, you felt kind of comfortable. Like, these guys are here to help. And I think part of that's the fact that they were going, unlike most shows are going into well-known historic places, these are going into haunted homes that people are actively living in. And I think that's part of what they're there to do. They're there to bring comfort, say, hey, we got you, we're going to help out. And I just really enjoyed their show.
I did too. I thought that they were so, like I said, so fun, but so serious, and that they listened to, when they went into the homes in the season, this last season. I liked that better than I liked them going into the public locations, and seeing them help people and interacting with the people's children even, and the kids were having a good time, and it made you smile. And I think a lot of people saw that.
I think my favorite part was the fact that they actually spent the night. Like, you got to see them making their beds, laying down on couches. They spent the night in the house to really get a true feel. And again, there's, You know, if a kid's room is one of the more haunted rooms, they stay the night in the kids' room. And like you said, them interacting with the kids, I thought was really, really good. And I think they got a lot of good information out of the kids that maybe a lot of other people on other shows might not be able to get.
Yeah. And like I said, they just from day one impressed me. Did you ever see any of the other shows on other networks besides the one you're on?
I've watched some things on A&E over the years. Like I've watched ghost shows on and off over the years. And again, it's sometimes I would be into them and then sometimes I would get turned off because of maybe, you know, things I would know about the locations or the people that I wasn't big on. But yeah, I've watched on and off basically everything out there for years.
There was one show I loved it, and it was Ghosts in the Hood.
I haven't heard of Ghost in the Hood. Tell me about this.
This show, it was on a couple years ago, and they were out of California, and they were doing cases in funeral parlors and stores and shops and houses and stuff. And some of the stuff was really funny, but there was parts that were very serious. And one of my friends that's out in Vegas, he does the ghost tours for Binions, but he was on the show as their technical guy. And like I said, I just loved it. You know, the guy wore a velveteen like sweatsuit and and stuff. And the thing is, the neighborhood was horrible, and they said that too. They go, the neighborhood's horrible. It was in Compton, I believe, but it was just really interesting to watch. And it was on WeTV, is what it was on.
I gotcha.
And it only had one season, and I was so upset when it went away because I'm expecting one of these ghost shows that people watch that they don't put a lot of stock in is going to come up with the, you know, that end all be all piece of evidence that, you know, that's going to make the whole world stop and go, oh my goodness, there's something there, you know.
It's really fascinating. As many shows that are on the air, you'll have some shows that are very well done that go for seasons, and you know they'll find some good stuff, but nothing like just jaw dropping. And then there's a show again, a good show, Ghost of Morgan City, that this season, I don't remember what episode, but they got, I don't know if you remember, they've got this full bodied apparition walking all the way across a room on camera. It's one of the better pieces of visual evidence I've seen in years, and they got that in their first season. And so kind of like you said, you never know who's going to come up with it. You never know where they're going to catch it. And that's one good reason to try and pay attention to as many of these shows as you can. I had no idea there'd been a ghost show on WeTV. I had no clue. And now I'm looking at it now on IMDb. I'm looking at the list of people. I'm absolutely going to try and find this, see if I can find these episodes somewhere.
Oh yeah, they got to be out there somewhere.
For sure.
But yeah, KD Stafford, he's been on my show, and we're supposed to be meeting up at this place that used to be, well, it's their headquarters for Supernatural Inc. that he does. And because, well, I'm in Kansas City area. They live in Kansas City area, and they've been trying to figure out some things about the location that they were at, and hardly anybody's investigated the site except for them. And now we've stayed there, and they want to visit with us about where the portals are in this location.
Ooh.
And because I told them, I said, I know where they are. And they go, how do you know? And I explained to them how I knew. And it was very interesting. And he was there. Him and his wife are such interesting people. And I know that if you're doing any paranormal conferences out there, he's going to be at a lot of them coming up here. He was in quite a few since September. So he did the Kansas City one back in August, but since September though, he's been hitting a bunch of them. And
awesome!
So he's making all the rounds. And the question is what's it going to be ghosts of next? Is it going to be ghosts of Morgan City, or is it going to be ghosts of some other town?
Exactly. No, that's a great question.
Yeah, I mean that's what it means, because it would make sense to move it to another location and have different people, have a local person on the team. You don't have to, you don't have to have the same people every season.
Right.
And so
it's probably going to come down to how many stories do you have in Morgan City? Do you have one more season, two more seasons? And I'll tell you one thing, I don't watch the ratings for every show, but every now and then I'll go look and see how people are doing. And I remember they were doing very, very well in the ratings, kind of above what Travel Channel usually looks for in prime time. So I know they're going to be back. I know they've got a season 2, and it would be really interesting to see if they eventually take kind of their show on the road.
It's possible. There are different towns. I mean, there's another new show that's coming out where the guy goes to these different towns and he's checking out not their most haunted location, which is good. It's good for those towns. He's going to be doing Malvern, Iowa, and not Malvern Manor, and doing Atchison, Kansas, but I'm pretty sure not the Sally House, probably the McIntyre Villa.
I like that.
I think so too. I think that the popular places get all the attention, and it's nice to see some of these other places get some attention. I mean, I would love to be able to go to Malvern, Iowa, and maybe check out someplace other than just the Malvern Manor. There's got to be someplace in Villisca that's not the Villisca Axe Murder House. It's probably just as haunted, and not next door to the Villisca Axe Murder House, because Johnny doesn't want everybody in his house. But
in New Orleans, there's so many famous places. You've got the Lalaurie house, the Lalaurie Mansion, but if you go into almost any bar in the French Quarter, I was in one where recently with some friends. It has never been reported to have been haunted before, except you sit down and start talking to the bartenders, and then they call the chefs, and then they call the owner, and you realize everyone in here deal with things almost every day, and this isn't even on the list of things that places people are looking into. It's not even reported anywhere online, but there's so much history in a town like that again, everybody's going to one or two places when they should really spread out, and they might be able to be the first ones to find something at these places that have never been investigated.
See, that's where Ghosts of New Orleans could come in.
I'm honestly I've got to tell you, and I tell this to everyone, I am blown away that we still have not had a full-time paranormal investigative show set in the city of New Orleans. Everybody they come for one episode. Portals to Hell was just there. They were the first ones to get into the Lalaurie Mansion. Everybody comes in and they leave. And I was trying to say, hey, y'all, if you want to do another season of Haunted Live, you can do an entire season literally on one street, Royal Street. Royal Street, New Orleans. There's one block I know that has a minimum of 4 to 5 very haunted locations, some of which there's a hotel. There's a hotel that many believe the ghost of Andrew Jackson inhabits. It had been an orphanage for kids whose parents had died of yellow fever, and then it caught on fire and all the kids died. Then it became a hotel and people died in the hotel. And I mean, literally just on one block of one street, I'm again just blown away that still hasn't happened.
Yeah, and Kat says Rampart Street too.
Oh, definitely.
There wasn't a street we didn't walk down when we went. We were there 6 weeks before Katrina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and we were there a year before that as well, but we were there we took the kids just 6 weeks before, and we took them to the Sultan's Palace and down to the Laurie House and all this stuff. And when I was standing outside in front of the Sultan's Palace, because I wasn't paying for a ghost tour for 4 kids.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's expensive. So I had a book, and I took the addresses from the book, and I took the kids on a walking tour myself and read them the book. And this was before I was a tour guide myself. Okay. So I just had to we wung it. And so we did that, and there was times when you're walking down the street that you don't know if you're seeing a spirit or if you're seeing a real person.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
There was a lot of that, not to mention the people were already dressed up like vampires and other things anyway, to make it fun. But you know what? We're at a perfect time to stop for a break. So everyone, come back to James McDaniel. If you have any questions, please put them in either of the chats and I will make sure they get asked. And you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama, and we are looking forward to everyone coming back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm Denise, and my guest tonight is James McDaniel, and we have been talking about paranormal shows. And I do have a question about a paranormal show from Sherry for you. And
Okay.
She asks, I'd love to know how you can possibly stay up on the chat on Haunted Live.
That was incredibly difficult because, again, there were thousands and thousands of comments going on. And I would always go home to actually rewatch the show because picture me, I'm in the social media command center. I'm looking at 4 cameras. And I'm looking at both the Facebook chat, which had at times hundreds of thousands of people in it. And I'm looking at the Twitter. So the way we actually set that up was I was watching the chat the whole time, but we also had 2 or 3 social media people from Travel Channel were basically anything they could see. There was one watching Facebook, one watching Twitter. And then there was one that was just watching the actual chat, and they would text me things that people were saying that I might have missed. So we had extra sets of eyes. That was incredibly difficult, but I ended up being pretty good at it. I've got to say, I thought I did a pretty good job of catching a lot of what people were seeing. And one of my favorite things that came out of that was in the first couple episodes, I remember thinking, man, everybody's seeing all these things and I'm not necessarily seeing them. And I'm thinking, are these people, are they hoping they're seeing this, et cetera, et cetera? And then what I loved about the show is every week as it progressed, starting with that first episode, people kept saying they were seeing basically like a face, some people were saying a demonic face, but just a face on the wall of I'm sorry, this wasn't the first episode. This was episode 3 on the wall of the theater we were in. And somebody screen capped it and sent it to me, and I saw exactly what they were talking about. And every week we'd get more of that and more of that until episodes 8, 9, and 10. We would get, I think, more evidence from the people watching the feeds at home, because again, you had 4 cameras going for an hour, so it was 4 hours worth of footage that people could pore over all week. I think we were getting more evidence from that than the Wraith chasers were even able to gather while they were in the houses, because you had so many eyes going over 4 hours of footage. And that's one of the reasons I really would hope to see a show like that, or that show come back, because I think we were only really scratching the surface of what could be accomplished by basically crowdsourcing paranormal investigation.
Right. And the only feedback I ever had was, and my husband as well, was that it needed to be at least 2 hours long.
Yes.
Because 1 hour is not good, not enough. And more than 2 hours, you're going to lose everybody.
It felt like every episode, the Tennessee Wraith chasers are really just starting to get into like the heat of the investigation. And then we've got to go to break, or then the show's over. Basically, they all have to be brought back together. And I really kept hoping we were going to get the 2 hours. If only because I thought I might get paid more, but also, again, I thought it would be a better show. And it ended up never happening. And I think, you saw with Haunted Salem Live, 4 hours is a long time. That's a lot to expect out of people. And I'll tell you this, I was blown away by how many people stuck with us the entire 4 hours. I don't know, when ratings come out for shows, it kind of gives you the average over 4 hours. And that one was like, I don't know, 550, 600,000 people. And I was thinking, man, I would love to see it. I never did like the hour to hour breakdown, because I don't think we had 500,000 or 600,000 people watching hour 4. It makes me think, man, we must have had so many people in hours 1 and 2. But yeah, I think 2 hours is the exact right amount of time for that type of show. And then you would have 8 hours worth of video footage, you'd have 2 hours from each of the 4 cameras. That's so much more for everybody to pour through. And people were really loving doing it. And people were loving feeling like they were part of the investigation, because they were.
When you guys when the ratings come out, does that account for the people who are just DVRing it and not watching it live?
It doesn't. So the ratings come out generally like on a Wednesday show. They'll come out on Friday, and then 3 or 4 days later, the live +3 ratings will come out. And those I never saw. There's basically, like, if anybody wants to go look up the ratings for their favorite show, I'll give a shout out to a really good website. I have no connection. Show Buzz Daily. They carry the ratings for the top 150 shows for each night, every night. And I would always go there to get the ratings, because honestly, like, when you're on a show, unless you're like have been the star of a show for a lot of years, they're not just this hitting you up and giving you the ratings every time they come out. You got to have to get the info yourself when you're a guy like me. And I never could see the live +3, but I know that every week it almost doubled. And I think every week they would kind of get a little nervous about the ratings, and then the DVR numbers would come out and they'd be really good. And then they'd be really excited again.
Yeah. 'Cause we don't watch commercials.
Right.
So needless to say, by the time the show actually aired, a lot of the stuff, like on the live feed, is already gone.
Yeah.
You can't see what was missed during the commercials, that if you were watching it on Facebook Live or anything like that. So
exactly.
And my husband doesn't like for me to be doing social media while we're watching TV. So,
I gotcha. And that was part of the whole thing. I was telling people, heck with a 2-screen experience. This is a 3-screen experience. Like, watch the video on your laptop, watch the show on the TV, and talk to me in chat on your phone. That's what I was telling everybody to do.
Yeah. Oh, and Ron also says, he goes, at least 2 hours, but 3 would be even better. So
see, we're all pushing it again.
Yeah,
no,
well, that's
3 would be a lot.
The feedback.
That's the thing. Everybody wanted more hours, and I I would love to be a part of a show that did more. And I think it does. That concept is a really good concept. I think it can keep getting better. And I think it deserves more hours. And I've got to tell you, going into Haunted Salem Live, like, I think I'm a pretty good talker. I can talk with most people about anything, but even I was really worried about, can I do 4 hours of talking? And I ended up pulling it off and having a good time, despite we had, I don't know if any of y'all were watching that live, you saw we had major technical difficulties. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name of the house we were in, but it was the one that the Kindred Spirits team was in. Our social media command center was set up in the garage. And I'm not officially saying this is what was happening, but my take on it is just a dumb bearded social media guy was, as things kicked up in the house, as activity kicked up in the house, we started getting a lot of technical difficulties in the garage there, as in video feeds would drop that shouldn't drop. We had hardcore experts there. My buddy TC Conway is one of the producers, and he's worked for the Discovery Channel for every live thing you can do. Shark Week, going to the bottom of the blue hole, and he's like, all these things should be working. They're just not working. And I honestly thought that was I thought that in my mind, to me, that's part of the paranormal experience we were dealing with there. And I enjoyed being there and trying to talk everybody through it. Yeah,
like I said, I liked the show, and I thought that it hit a niche, a different niche, in the market as far as that went, and we found it to be entertaining. But sitting there and watching the replay, it took us a couple days to watch it all.
It took a while to get through, right?
It did, because it wasn't like we have a grandson in the house, so we can't ever watch anything all the way through without somebody interfering.
Right. Especially 4 hours. That's a lot of hours of TV. And that's the thing. If you're not doing it completely live, and again, there's a lot of parents out there, a lot of people couldn't do it completely live. I would imagine that would take me a while to get through as well.
Oh, yeah. We do have another question for you in chat. It's from Tom McNicholas. He asked, what are you currently working on?
So right now, I'm not working on anything, but I have a big meeting coming up with Travel Channel and HGTV in the next couple of days, where we're going to figure out what's next for me. Again, the last two things were here in October with I covered the invasion of Area 51 for them. And we did the Haunted Salem Live, and I got really good feedback. Everybody at Travel Channel really liked the work I did. And now that we've hit the new year, we're all kind of getting back together and trying to find some more permanent stuff for me to do, kind of ongoing throughout the year. And they asked me for some ideas. They have some ideas. I'm going to be finding out about those next week. So hopefully I can come on again and you can ask me that question. I'll have some better answers for you.
We do have another question here from Sherry. She asks, I think we talked about it a little bit, but the scoop on Dee Snider's son is he just didn't fit, right?
Yeah, I think that's all it was. And I've got to say, I thought he got I do think he got a little bit of a bad rap, because a lot of the energy he was giving, I would hear people on set kind of directing him to go that direction. And the feedback from fans was not good. And I think at that point, whoever it was on, whether it was on Jesse, whether it was on the people giving him direction, who's to say, it just didn't work out. And also his band was kicking off. They're about to record a new album. So it honestly kind of worked out for both. He was actually putting off getting back into the studio to record an album for the show. So he ended up getting back to what he does best, which is music. Not that he's not good on TV. He is. That just was not the show for him.
Yeah, it all worked out the way it was meant to. And
exactly.
And from what I've seen, he's moving on and doing what he needs to do, and that's good.
And I'm going to say, if anybody out there ever meets him, talk to him about paranormal, you will never see more excitement in a grown man than getting him talking about the paranormal, about ghosts, about consciousness, any of those things. He is so into it. And I really encourage you, if you meet him on the streets, go up, say hi, bring up Haunted Live. He is a wonderful guy who really, really loves this area of life, the paranormal, the unexplained.
From what I recall, his dad was really into it too.
Absolutely. And I think that's definitely carried on in the son.
Yeah, because I seem to remember some interview that Dee Snider did about the paranormal. It was probably back in the 90s.
Ooh.
So before you were born. And it was on some radio station here in Kansas City with Johnny Dare here. So so they don't have an archive of it anymore. I mean, if they do, they probably bring it out when I'm not listening. But it was back before I had satellite radio, so I had to listen on my way to work. So
there's so much great audio over the years that's been lost. Like, and I don't think all what I'm about to say is all lost, but like, for instance, I grew up listening to Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, and and now there's like all these YouTube channels that have all the old shows. And I don't know if anybody has the complete archive outside of the Coast to Coast AM people. But, and then Dave Schrader actually on his podcast, again, Dave Schrader from the Holzer Files, he just did an interview with a pro wrestler, John Moxley, who's a real big deal in the pro wrestling world about the paranormal. And I kind of love hearing, like you said, like an interview with Dee Snider about something like the paranormal, something that's kind of outside of their usual purview. And so many of those have been done over the years that we may never get a chance to hear. And there's a little bit of, I don't know what the word is. It's kind of like the FOMO, the fear of missing out, the fear that these are out there and I'll never get to hear them.
Yeah, there's all kinds of those. And it will blow your mind when you think about all these, people go, oh, famous people have these. What it's different when you hear it in their own words and it's not a reenactment show. Yeah. And you can hear, the fear in their voice, like Renee Russo, the Happy Medium. Yeah. When she talks to people, there's no reenactment. It's all them talking to her and they're taping it and you can feel what they're saying. And it's similar on these radio stations or TV stations, whatever, when they're talking to someone about it. There was this interest last year during the playoffs here in Kansas City. Somebody went out there and they said that the field was cursed. Okay. Said the field at Arrowhead was cursed. So our local news went out there with a medium and decided they were going to clear the field. And so I actually watched our local news that night to see this. Yeah. And apparently it took a year to kick in.
Well, clearly, it takes a little while for everything to settle in, but it sure did work last night.
So, yeah. And so everybody here in Kansas City has been behaving themselves. I haven't seen any horrible news stories like you normally do after a huge game. Win or lose, it's usually horrible.
We had a very similar situation with the Superdome in that a lot of people believed there was a curse on the New Orleans Saints and there was voodoo ceremonies and all done. And part of it, people believe, is that the Superdome is actually built on a graveyard. And they tried to, when they built it, to move all the bodies, but they didn't get them all. And so we got the one Super Bowl win years ago. And since then, it feels a lot like the curse is completely back.
See, you guys got the win when Manning was playing.
Yes, head to head with Peyton.
Father, Archie Manning. Oh, and with Peyton?
Oh no, we had Drew Brees as our quarterback. I think it was 2009 that we got the win, and I think it was over Peyton Manning.
See, my team that when I was into football won in the Superdome, and that was the Baltimore Ravens.
I think back then everybody won in the Superdome but the Saints.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what's happening in Dallas now.
Yeah, for sure.
They're actually, I looked up their record since they've been there. It's about 50-50, but still that's not good for the home team.
No, not at all.
It's horrible. But yeah, I was telling somebody, I said, I remember, pictures of Johnny Unitas, my dad. That was my dad's favorite. And being from Baltimore, that was the big thing, to be a Colts fan and Johnny Unitas back then. And then I became a Ravens fan when that happened, but I stopped watching. So, but yeah, I'm happy for everybody who's excited for the Chiefs win, and I'm sorry for San Francisco, but they shouldn't have been saying, "Hey, those people can't win."
No, they shouldn't have. That's not a smart move.
No.
Going into a big game. That's the way to get another team fired up.
Yeah. And the thing is there any see, I'm a big one on proof. Do they know anything about the Superdome? Was it really built on a graveyard, or are they just assume that?
No, it 100% was. That's definite fact. And it's also definite fact that the people that were paid to move all the bodies did not quite get all the bodies. I don't know, however, I don't know how much of the actual curse idea is lore. Like, the people in the Superdome, I'd like to talk to players and find out, have you experienced anything, has any of the coaching staff, any of the people that work concessions, have they ever experienced anything really strange there?
And were they experiencing it before Katrina as well as after?
Right.
Because we all, the entire nation was watching. Yeah. We were all, I was the Sprint contact for the disaster down there.
Oh my goodness.
I was the one that was sending down tents and porta potties and cell phones for people from Sprint. And so, I know how big of a disaster it was because I was working with Sprint to help clean it up.
Right.
But as that goes, we were all, as a nation, watching New Orleans that Labor Day weekend.
Right.
To see what was happening. And, it was horrible. But what else is happened in that building? What's happened outside that building? I know I know where the Superdome is. I've seen it. It just makes you wonder.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, we know, we know we have all the bodies from the graveyard that where there could be spirits there. We know there were deaths there. We know there were the horrific things that happened to people there in that Superdome during Katrina. And then over the years, there's, like you said, there's so much more just in the streets around it. Look, New Orleans is a high crime city as cities go. It is. And they'll be everyone in New Orleans will be the first ones to tell you that. And I think there could be a lot more. There could be, again, just a lot going on at the Superdome. And in a building that large, I don't think you have people following. This is how many people died here. Again, there could be heart attacks over the years at major events.
Oh yeah.
Things like that. Again, somebody could have gotten stabbed or shot outside it. I guarantee nobody has that figure, but I bet that figure is very high just at the sheer number of people who go to the Superdome every year, not just for Saints game, but for, again, WrestleMania comes to Louisiana. It goes to the Superdome. All these big events, again, the Super Bowl comes to the Superdome. Yeah. And anywhere you have a lot of people, people are going to die over the years, and who knows how much death and who knows how much death is accumulated there over the years, but I can guarantee you it's a lot.
And with that, we're at our break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with James in just a minute.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. My guest tonight is James B. McDaniel from shows such as Haunted Live and Haunted Salem Live. And we do have some questions for you here in the chat. Ron asks, does James do a lot of investigations in New Orleans or anywhere else?
You know, I've done them for years on my own and with a couple of friends, but recently I just did kind of my first public investigation where people bought tickets and came along. It was me and Shane Pittman from the Holzer Files, and it was in my hometown. So I grew up, first of all, the house I grew up in is still the most haunted house I've ever been in my life. And I can talk about that further here in a bit. But I grew up one block away from our Gothic Hanging Jail. It was built in 1914. It was, I think, the pride of all jails in the state of Louisiana when it was built. And it was built to be. And they hung a couple of people there, I think in the late 1920s, early 1930s. I'm terrible with keeping dates right in my head. And I've wanted to do a paranormal investigation in that building since before I even understood what paranormal investigations were, because every night I would get into bed from the age of 4 on, and I could look out my window and see that place. And we finally got to do that, me and Shane and about 22 other people. And it was my first time ever being a part of a kind of a bigger structured hunt like that. And it ended up going really, really well. I'm going to do a Facebook Live very soon. And then once everybody gets their investigations in, I've got to say the highlight for me so far is so the middle of the building is a spiral staircase, and it goes up to where they hung people, and the body would come down the middle, and around the sides where the stairs spiral, there were cells all along. So everyone in the jail would see the body fall. And we did a mock hanging. And we had everybody in all the rooms on the second floor, right where the body would fall, basically all kind of focused on the hanging. And we all had recorders out. We all had cameras out. And we got, so far, there's one spot right before the hanging where one person got a stick figure on her SLS camera, kind of walking up the staircase, hand on the railing. And then a lady standing right next to me with an IR camera, got a big glowing something at the exact same spot. And then my friend Mike Triana, who flew in from Folsom, California. Mike, if you're listening, love you for that. He actually got the same, basically 3 different people on 3 different devices. His FLIR camera all got the same figure moving up, and they all showed up differently depending on the device readouts. And that right there, I thought was phenomenal. I'm a big fan of being able to get multiple readings of the exact same anomaly, and to get it on 3 different cameras showing 3 different things. One's heat signature, one is the SLS camera. That was really impressive to me.
Yeah, I know there's always something in every investigation that is remarkable, whether it's something that you see, nothing happens. But it's every investigation has something remarkable that you're always going to remember.
Right.
And for a lot of people, it's going to be you.
Which is a real shame if I'm the best they're getting. But that actually brings me back real quick. First episode of Haunted Live, like I was nervous. Because literally I was kind of joking, but kind of real when I was like, we've got 1 hour. I don't know how punctual these ghosts are. I was worried we weren't going to get anything for TV in 1 hour. And I'd gotten to Octagon Hole in Kentucky. I think that was the first episode. And I'd gotten a tour, and I felt some heaviness on the second floor. And I tell this story to everybody because this is one of the biggest stories for me personally from the entire series. And then Jesse Snyder got there and he wanted to tour the building. So I took him on the tour that I'd been given earlier. And we got up to this room on the second floor. And as soon as we crossed the threshold into this room, it felt like something kicked all the wind out of my body. Like I was doubled over. I could barely speak. And I turned to look at Jesse to ask if he feels that. And he has been over in the same way, looking at me, asking me if I feel that. And we immediately both kind of scurried out of the room like Scooby and Shaggy. And the second we crossed the threshold of that room, we could both breathe again. Everything was fine. And I honestly don't think the Tennessee Wraith Chasers got that much in. I don't think they found that much in that first episode. But as soon as that happened, I thought, okay, I think we're going to be just fine. I think they picked the right buildings. I think Haunted Live is going to do just fine with the ghost showing up on time.
Well, thanks to you, we went to Franklin, Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah, we went down to the Lodes house, went across the street to the, is it the Carter house?
Yes.
We went over there, and now we're planning a trip to go back and actually investigate. Because we went during the day. And we were on our way. We were on our way down to see Kat in Birmingham, so we were on a schedule. And what's really strange is that the day before we had done McPike Mansion. We're the tour guides at McPike Mansion in Alton, Illinois. And that night, I hit my head on a door, and we didn't think our vacation was going to happen because I had a concussion.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But we still went. I'm a trooper.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so we went down there and we checked it out. And Franklin is a beautiful city, and it made me feel like I was in Gettysburg. You know,
absolutely.
So, but less traffic.
You know, when I was one of the things I really appreciated about Haunted Live was because we were mainly doing everything around Tennessee, kind of everything within like 2 hours of Nashville. So kind of the Tennessee Wraith Chasers stomping grounds. And I realized that even though I live in the very deep South here in Louisiana, and we have New Orleans, and New Orleans is wonderful. We have the Battle of New Orleans, and that was really it. But when you start getting up into Tennessee, you get into real Civil War history. You have all these different houses that hundreds or thousands of people died at. And that is a big aspect of history we don't have a ton of here in Louisiana. And I felt really blessed to be able to go kind of dig into that deeper and see these amazing buildings and learn about this history that I had only been able to do as a kid. Like we had family in Maryland, and we'd go up to Maryland, and then they'd take us to Gettysburg, and it was a vacation thing. And then to be able to get that every week for 10 weeks was really phenomenal.
We've been looking at houses in Tennessee and Florida, and I have family in Tennessee. So for me, it's like in the eastern part, more close to Virginia.
Okay.
And I told my husband, I said, when we're going through Virginia, I said, there's more battlefields through there than there is anywhere in the country. There were more battles in Virginia than anywhere, and I said, you're going to be amazed when we're driving across the state how many you're going to see.
Yeah.
Because we're planning on a trip at some point to go see my sister in Virginia Beach. And but then, of course, there were battles right there in Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia. And my grandmother and grandfather built a house right there on the state line.
Oh, I love that.
So I know this house very well, and it's a funny story, and maybe someday I'll tell you. But it's when you're driving through from Missouri through all these states, I can't tell you how many battlefields we go by, but I can guarantee if we're planning on stopping, it's going to rain. So when we were at the Lodes house, as soon as we got out of the car, it started to rain.
Really?
Yes, every battlefield we've been on. Mm-hmm. Every battlefield ever since I can remember, it's happened. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. We've got the Meridicine massacre site down the road, the Battle of Mine Creek. So we just go down the road to a battlefield. It'd be bright and sunny. I guarantee it's going to rain by the time we get there.
That's amazing.
So I don't know. It rained the whole time we were in Gettysburg. So, okay, whatever.
Basically, don't go on. You're not the person to go on a battlefield vacation with, is what you're telling us.
No, and my cousin, she owns a house on Antietam, and I was like, well, you probably get a flood when I come.
Yeah, you might get washed out.
Yeah, so I just kind of smile and whatever, but I don't know if we should plan any Civil War battlefield vacations again. But
that seemed like the best idea.
We do have a couple other questions here. Let's see.
All right.
See. Oh, Sherry wants to know, and I don't know if you can even answer this. She'd love to hear which TWC guy is your favorite to talk to, and who do you feel it the closest to?
Okay, that's a good question. I think it's kind of a tie between Mike G and Porter. And Mike G, I think clearly we grew to be very close because for most of the episodes, he was sitting with me in the social media control center or command center, depending on what episode we were doing was what we'd call it. And I've got to tell you, I was incredibly impressed with him because there were a lot of times where I thought I saw something. And I expected, again, I'd never met these guys. I'd seen a couple episodes of their show because I didn't have Destination America to see some of their earlier work. And he was very skeptical, as in, I would say, what do you think of that? And he's like, well, this is what is an orb and what's not an orb. This is how you can tell that's probably not an orb. That's probably dust. I was just really impressed with his professionalism, and none of those guys were jumping to declare something paranormal. And that really impressed me. And then Porter is just a really entertaining guy. Our senses of humor kind of clicked from the very beginning, and we've hit it off ever since, and still text on and off to this day. Really love both those guys, but I'm going to say I love everybody in the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. Doogie's fantastic. Chris and Brandon. That's a really great group of guys, and I couldn't have been prouder to have been a part of one of their shows.
I could see that. And and the baby, Mike?
Oh,
Mike
that's
G's
right. Mike's new baby
is so adorable.
It is so adorable, and I'm going to say, the photos I've seen now with Mike G and that baby, the baby looks like it's made Mike G younger. Like his face is just so alive. Like you can tell he is just in love with that baby.
Oh yeah. And that baby, that mother had heartburn that whole pregnancy. I could tell by all the hair. So, But I have never seen a baby. Well, actually I have seen a baby with that much hair. My daughter looked like it was born. She looked like a monkey.
And you had the heartburn?
Yeah, I had heartburn the whole time.
Didn't know about that. I didn't know that connection.
Heartburn equals hair is what the doctor says.
Oh, wow.
My doctor was an old Greek doctor, and he would tell me all kinds of stuff. Of course, he could have just been telling me that to see if I believed him.
Yeah.
He delivered 3 of my 4 girls, and his son delivered the 4th. So, and then the son also delivered my grandson. So we kept it in the family.
I love that. I love that you're keeping it in the family. That's fantastic.
Well, the doctor said that when my grandson was born to my daughter, that was only his 8th, that he delivered them and then delivered their child.
Oh, wow.
So, but I told him, I said, I helped put you through school, so I deserve it.
You kind of did.
Yeah, that's what I told him a lot. So
that's a lot of girls.
A lot of girls. We have the granddaughter, not so much. She was born in Vegas, so he wouldn't go deliver there.
That's a real shame.
So, I saw that baby, and he is so adorable. And Mike is very lucky to have such a happy, healthy baby. So
absolutely.
Oh, and then one of the little girls that we hang out with, she said she wants to meet Chris so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many women in my timeline that when they found out I was on that show, they all wanted me to get Chris on the phone for him. That he is very popular with the ladies.
Well, we were trying to talk our daughter into naming our grandson Porter, and not because of Porter. It happened to my cousin built guitars for Porter Wagner.
Oh, that's awesome.
It has nothing to do with that either. It's just we were drinking one night, and I said, I think this would make a really good name for a baby, Porter. And that's not the name he got, but it's okay.
That is a really great name.
Yeah. Everyone, we are at our top of the hour break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. I am totally lost now. But out of Birmingham, Alabama, come back in a few minutes and I'll have it all back together again. I promise.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. It's the first day of voting in the contest for the 2020 presidential nominating process. The Iowa caucuses are getting underway at this hour at some 1,600 locations around the state. NPR's Don Gagne is there.
There has been intense interest in the 2020 Iowa caucuses. A very large turnout is anticipated as Democrats choose from an unusually large field of candidates with 4 or 5 top-tier contenders. In recent weeks, polling has shown the lead changing hands among the top candidates. The number of undecided voters has also been unusually high this year. That makes tonight's outcome even more unpredictable. Ultimately, each campaign looks to exceed expectations or do well enough to get some momentum going into the next contest in New Hampshire next week. Don Gagne, NPR News, Des Moines.
Hong Kong's chief executive announced today the city is cutting ground transportation links with mainland China as an outbreak of a deadly new virus continues to spread. NPR's Emily Fang reports there are 15 confirmed cases of the coronavirus so far in Hong Kong.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the city would sever all land border crossings between China and Hong Kong, apart from the bridge connecting the mainland city of Zhuhai with nearby Macau. 3 days ago, Lam said the city would halve the number of flights from the mainland, halt the train lines from China, and close some border crossings in an effort to prevent the spread of the coronavirus in Hong Kong. The announcement comes as Hong Kong's non-essential medical staff continue striking. They want Lam to close the entire border with mainland China. Frontline doctors and nurses say they will strike Tuesday if Lam does not heed their demands. Emily Fang, NPR News, Beijing.
The total number of worldwide cases of the disease now totals more than 20,000, with at least 426 deaths. A trial date has been set for 2 indicted associates of President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. As NPR's Ryan Lucas reports, the trial of Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman is scheduled to begin in October.
Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman were indicted in October in the Southern District of New York for alleged campaign finance crimes. Both men have pleaded not guilty to the charges. At a hearing in federal court in Manhattan, Judge J. Paul Utkin set October 5th for the trial to open. Prosecutors say they expect it to last around 2 weeks, although they say that could change. The charges in the case relate to campaign donations, but Parnas and Fruman have come under intense scrutiny for unrelated work, helping Rudy Giuliani gather information in Ukraine on former Vice President Joe Biden. Parnas has also turned over materials to Congress related to his work with Giuliani in Ukraine. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, New York.
Iran's president says he might reconsider providing UN inspectors with access to Iranian nuclear facilities if the country is confronted with a new situation, where President Hassan Rouhani stressed inspections will continue during his meeting with the European Union's new foreign affairs chief in Tehran. On Wall Street today, the Dow was up 143 points. This is NPR. Even as the current Democratic frontrunners for the presidential nomination focus on Iowa, billionaire businessman Michael Bloomberg is setting his own course. The former New York City mayor is in California today, seeking to rally support in the country's most populous state. Bloomberg, who's chosen to focus on the delegate-rich state rather than Iowa, began the day at a Sacramento coffee shop. Early voting begins in the state ahead of the scheduled March 3rd primary. Fans of the Tony, Grammy, and Pulitzer Prize-winning musical Hamilton will finally be able to see it in movie theaters. The Walt Disney Company announced that today. The film will feature the original cast, including author Lin-Manuel Miranda. Jeff London reports.
Since it opened on Broadway in August 2015, Hamilton has been a sold-out smash hit.
I wanna be in the room where it happens.
And getting into the room where it happens on Broadway, on tour, or in London can cost a lot. More than $500 for premium tickets, over $1,000 on the resale market. But if you're willing to wait for it, beginning in October 2021, you can see Hamilton for the price of a movie ticket. The film is a live capture of the original stage show shot at the Richard Rodgers Theater on Broadway. Disney purchased the rights for $75 million. For NPR News, I'm Jeff London in New York.
Crude oil futures prices extended what has been their worst slide to start a new year in decades. Oil was down $1.45 a barrel today to close at $50.11 a barrel in New York. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is James B. McDaniel, and I've been having a great time with him. I got a feeling that we're going to make sure that we meet up somewhere sometime because this has been going very well tonight.
Absolutely.
So I do have some more questions for you. I want to make sure I get them before they all roll past me because, they start asking questions and I start losing them. How did James get started with the networks and these haunted shows? Did he go to college for something special to do things like this? And this is from Sherry.
I did not. It's actually a ridiculous story. Although I did take paranormal psychology at Louisiana Tech University, I was a sociology major. I was not in any way involved with TV at all for a lot of years until eventually I started doing some low-level stuff in the film industry here in Louisiana, which you can find on my IMDb, which I saw you share the link on. But at the time, basically post Katrina, all the entire Louisiana film industry, which was a major thing at the time, all moved up to the city of Shreveport in Northwest Louisiana because everything in New Orleans was destroyed. So I started doing a lot of extra work, and then I became a precision driver, and then I started doing PA work. And I had a girlfriend, an ex-girlfriend, who ended up going to work in production for the TV show Fixer Upper on HGTV. And when the first episode came out, she told me about it and told me to get online and start tweeting about it because I had, at the time, a lot of Twitter followers in her mind, which was like 600 or 700. And so I started tweeting about Fixer Upper. And the first thing I ever tweeted was about Chip Gaines, which he had a dead tooth at the time. And I don't think I was really trying to be mean. It just hit me like I posted, "What's up with this guy's tooth?" Because it was really obvious. You don't see a lot of people on TV with dead teeth. And Chip read that. He read that. He replied to me. We started joking back and forth. And I ended up becoming really good friends with Chip and Joanna Gaines because at the time I was literally the only person live tweeting that show. And over the coming months, I started making friends with different people who were like producers. There was one I said, "Hey, I'm going to start flirting with you. You're cute," on Twitter. And it turns out her name was Lindsay Whitehorn. She was head of production. I'm sorry. She basically ran all originals for HGTV and 2 or 3 other networks. She was a really big deal. And so after a while, they started saying, "Hey, we want to do basically the Talking Dead for the Walking Dead, but for Fixer Upper." And they said, "Oh, there's let's talk to Peppermint Fatty," because that's my name on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere. They knew I did radio. They knew I watched the show. And so they called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to do this live show for us on HGTV's Facebook?" And so, of course, I said yes. And I started doing that every week. After the episode, I would go live with photos from the show, talk to everybody about it, which is so weird because I'm not like your HGTV guy. I'm not handy in any way. I don't understand design at all. I don't have a big eye for it. And basically, they got used to me being a guy who could talk for a half hour or more about things. And then the people that kind of run social for HGTV also do it for Travel Channel. And they called me up about Haunted Live, and I didn't ask about money. I asked about nothing. I just said yes, because I've been in to the paranormal since I was a kid. I grew up in a haunted house. My dad, I had a wonderful childhood. My dad owned a book and magazine store, the second biggest in the state of Louisiana. So I read Fangoria. I read all the UFO magazines. I read everything that was anything to do with the paranormal. And I really just kind of stumbled into it because I was kind of funny on Twitter. So that's a lot of people ask me, like, how do you do this? And I'm like, well, I can tell you, I don't know how repeatable it is, but this is how I did it. Be funny on Twitter.
Yeah. See, I have a tendency to not get on Twitter, mostly because I'm long-winded.
Yeah. And, and it limits what you can say.
And it's like Instagram. I like Instagram, but I don't want to put pictures with every darn thing.
Yeah.
You know, just me. I'm not a selfie person. I'm not, when we travel, I don't like putting pictures up because there's always somebody at home.
Exactly.
And you don't want people to know, hey, she's out on the road. So in the last few years, I haven't posted anything until I get back home. Hopefully keeping my house from getting robbed. But,
I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun It's been a lot of fun for me to be able to respond to my friends who used to give me a lot of crap about doing so much on social media. Oh, James is out here acting like a 15-year-old girl, just post on Instagram all the time. Well, guys, it paid off. I got on TV thanks to it.
So was getting on TV your goal?
It absolutely was not. The thing is, it's something that actually aptitude test used to tell me, like, I should be like a playwright. I'd done some screenwriting. I'd sold a screenplay years ago that didn't get made into anything. I've always thought I wanted to work in entertainment. I always did. That's one of the reasons I got into radio. And, but I never expected to be in front of the camera. I never thought I had much of a face for TV. I definitely have always thought I had more of a face for radio. And honestly, until high school, I was a painfully shy child. When I say I couldn't talk to girls until I was a senior in high school, I don't mean I couldn't ask a girl out. I mean, I was too shy to ask a girl what time it was. Like, I could not have a conversation. I was just so painfully shy. And that's something that I guess I worked on during college. I started doing college radio because it's easier to talk into a mic than to talk to somebody face to face because you're just talking into a mic. And it's just something I slowly worked on over the years. And so now it's a really strange thing when I think back, the fact that I make my living off of radio and TV when I was so painfully shy. So it was never part of the plans because I never thought it was a possibility,
I understand that because I was never, ever shy. I was awkward, though.
I got you.
And I knew it.
I was the perfect mix of the two.
Yeah. And for me, it was, I was on TV when I was a kid. I was on Romper Room in New Jersey.
No way.
Long time ago. Yeah. Way back
that is awesome.
Before the year started with 7. And there was all
Romper
kinds
Room
of
was
stuff.
huge, though. That's awesome.
Oh, it was. Yes, I was with Miss Nancy in the New York City studios, and we went by bus from New Jersey to there. But and there's all these stories my mom would tell me about. Yep, the Macy's people saw you and wanted you to be one of their models, and your dad said no. No child of his was going to make more money than him. And so my dad stopped all that. So then
you
make
were
a big
child prodigy, and he squashed it.
Oh yeah, and then I was on some commercials here in Kansas City after I graduated from high school or from college, and they ran they said they ran for like 2 weeks, and then they took them down. They lost their funding, and
oh no.
And I was like, it didn't matter to me. I didn't get paid for them anyway, so it didn't make a difference to me. But when I got on Ghost Adventures, everybody goes, oh, she's just feeling like she's big shot because she got on TV. I was like, no, I've been on TV before. It ain't squat.
Yeah. It's really frustrating to me when it just seems to be like a human thing that when somebody gets on TV due to something they're good at and interested in, people start giving them crap, and like a lot of people bands they're into. All of a sudden the band breaks out and starts really making money, and everybody like, oh, they're sellouts. And I'm like, well, they're kind of just, they're making money. They're successful. Like, you should be happy for them.
that's the whole goal. Is
yeah,
to
like
get to
that's
that
their
point.
job. They have bills they want to pay. And now that they can, you're giving them crap. And that's always frustrating to me. And that's one of the reasons why in everything I do, like, and I'm no big success, don't make a lot of money, but I try and keep it positive. Like anything I do, whether it's these Facebook watch parties I do, or, interacting with people on shows like On and Live, I try and keep things positive because our country is just way too negative right now in 2020. Mm-hmm. Everywhere you go, again, my job is kind of on social media a lot. But man, it is hard to be on Twitter sometimes because just everybody's trying to tear down everybody. When, man, especially in the paranormal community, we really need to be building each other up and supporting each other and be happy for everybody when they get on a show.
Oh, yeah. If it's somebody I know personally, I am excited as heck because I've been friends with Shane Pittman for a long time.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've been friends with, I'm friends with almost all the race chasers. And although I've never met them personally, and like I said, I was on Ghost Adventures 5 years ago. So it's not like I don't know people because I've been doing the show for 5 years coming up here. And I am excited when I saw Sean Austin had his own show. I was like, I had him on my show the first year I had a show.
That's fantastic.
And, Dave Spinks is all over the place nowadays. And, he drove all the way out here to Kansas to meet us when he was, meeting us was part of it. But, he drove all the way out here and we got to meet him. And I was excited about that, and I'm still excited every time I meet, not just people from TV, but just people from that I'm friends with on Facebook. I'm excited as anything to meet them. And I don't know if they're excited to meet me, but, I am excited to meet them and find out more about them. And so there's another question here for you. And it is, what do you do when you're live and not getting any paranormal experices?
When I'm live? Oh, when I'm live and nothing's happening. Generally, if I'm live and nothing's happening, I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to them about what they saw earlier, or kind of, for instance, what was the next experiment coming up that the Tennessee Wraith Chasers were going to do. Or on Haunted Salem Live, I talked a lot about, the fact that the Holzer Files debuted the night before, actually. And Cindy and Dave were there with us, so they couldn't even watch their show live. So I was talking to them about the Holzer Files and if they enjoyed it the night before, because I hadn't gotten a chance to watch it yet. So I try and keep it on topic and just keep it on topic, but keep an actual conversation going. What did you see earlier? What do what's the experiment you're going to be most excited about coming up? During Haunted Salem Live, we did, we had everybody focus on this sigil. And, do you remember that part of it? And basically, we want everybody to put their energy into focusing on this sigil. And people at home started having the wildest experiences. And this is something I was actually a little worried about because I also talked on the air about how Art Bell had done this kind of mass consciousness experiment years ago on Coast to Coast, where there was this area that was they needed rain. They needed rain really badly, and he was getting everybody to concentrate on bringing rain, and it brought floods that killed people, and it made him stop doing it. So I was saying, I was a little worried about getting hundreds of thousands of people out around America to kind of focus on this one thing, and all of a sudden, everybody in the chat, these thousands of people I'm talking to, they're all start talking about how they're having headaches, they're having chest pains, they're all reporting smelling the exact same thing. Which was just, I think I got wildly off the topic here, but that was one of the big things that we kept talking about throughout the night on Haunted Salem Live, basically checking in to make sure everybody's okay. And then the next day on my personal Facebook, there was people saying, hey, sorry, so-and-so wanted to say, like, so-and-so wanted me to say they were sorry they couldn't finish watching the show with you and talking on chat. They had a stroke during the show. And then somebody else's sister got in a wreck, and like all these horrible things that happened off of that. So one of the things I was doing throughout the night, I'm glad I was doing, which was checking to make sure everybody was okay after all the effects people were having after that experiment.
Yeah. Trina's saying, yes, a big headache that she had one.
Yeah.
And
I actually everybody's experiencing the same thing, which was really, to me, that really struck me. If everybody's saying totally different symptoms, that's one thing, but everybody the same symptoms, that was striking.
Yeah, I actually had a show one time where I was talking to someone, and I had to call the show because everybody in my chat room dropped out and were sending me private messages saying that they had stuff happening in their homes.
Oh, wow. That's a real danger of that when you're dealing with portals, which was one. I think that was again, my memory is a little hazy on that. That was a crazy couple of weeks for me. But I think the focus was on opening a portal with that sigil. Yeah,
I'm not real big on sigils, but you know what? We're at our next break. Everybody, you're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with James McDaniel in just a couple minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is James B. McDaniel. And we've been having a very spirited talk about all kinds of things. And I do have another question for you. This one is from Carl from Caldwell County Paranormal up here in Missouri. And he asks, were you there with TWC at the 1859 jail in Independence, Missouri?
I wasn't. I really wish I could have been, though. I really wish I could have been. Mike G has been trying to get me out to some of their investigations for a while, and I still have not been able to make it. Either I'm broke at the time and can't afford the travel, or I'm, can't get away because I'm doing some other work. But I really want to start getting to more of those. I mean, I don't want to be the guy that in 5 or 10 years, like maybe they're not doing it anymore, and then I want to do it and I'm free to do it. You know what I mean? This is a great opportunity right now, being friends with them while they're out doing these investigations basically every weekend. And I'm definitely going to try and make it out to some more very soon.
Well, there's a lot of places to go, and they're adding new places every day.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're haunted or not is a whole other other thing. But there's all kinds of new places that are just popping up. It seems like
I've realized I just need to buy a notebook to keep the list for all the places, not only that they're going, that everybody else is going, and that all my friends and fans, like they all ask me literally every day. I'll get a DM. Hey, have you ever investigated this place? You have to investigate this place. And I've got I'm really bad about reading it and saying, I'll remember that. And then an hour later, I don't remember it. I literally need a notebook just for paranormal investigation ideas, because I get so many of them and I don't want people to stop sending them. Anybody that's listening that sent me some, keep them coming. I just have to get more. I just have to be more serious about keeping track of them all.
Get yourself a composition book, because the pages don't fall out, like a spiral notebook.
Right.
And they're only about $1.
Ooh.
So, and you can, and since they're hard backed, most of them are hard backed. Mm-hmm. You can, it won't get all bent up. But then they also have some that are a more flimsy material, so that you can fold it up and stick it in your pocket. But I keep them I have them all over the house.
There's probably a lot of people listening right now who are thinking, listen to these two old farts. Like, just write it in your phone or write it on your iPad. And what I say to that is I have just had so many computers down me over the years, or phones I drop into something. And even though they're supposed to keep everything, I never get everything back. No. I'm still very old school when it comes to, I'm going to write it down on paper and keep it somewhere, because yes, I do write a lot down in my phone. And then for some reason, all just goes missing after an update or something horrible happens to my phone.
And you do know one thing, there's this, it's proven that once you've written it down by pen on paper, you have a better chance of remembering it. Yep.
Absolutely.
So, but I got a question here. Nick asks, he goes, wouldn't it be great if James came to the Haunted Road Media Paracon in Alton later this year, or the Chicago Ghost Con? There is a paranormal conference coming up on my birthday weekend, June 12th and 13th in Alton, Illinois at Mineral Springs.
Ooh. And
there's also going to be a tour that night at the McPike Mansion on the 13th. And so put it in your calendar that this is going to be happening. If you happen to be in the area, it's just straight up 55.
Everybody asks me, am I going to be at this conference or that conference? And I've yet to be officially invited by somebody at a conference, but there's a wonderful lady, Greta Reifert. She works with Chip Coffee a lot. Mm-hmm. She actually hit me up recently and said, hey, we need to start getting you to some of these conferences. Let's talk on the phone. So maybe I might be about to. So hopefully I'm about to start going to more of these conferences, which I would really love to.
Well, if you ever make it to the Kansas City area, let me know.
Deal.
I don't usually go to these big conferences because you don't get any real private time. Right. You don't get to really investigate. Because, up here we have the Belvoir Winery, and Chip is always there with Kindred Spirit with Amy and Adam. Mm-hmm. And we've stayed there. We've stayed overnight there once, but we used to go before it was a hotel.
I got you.
Or before it was a bed and breakfast. So it was a hotel before. So I can't hear anything. Kat, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah. And
speaking of bed and breakfasts, we talked about New Orleans earlier. Have you ever stayed at the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana?
I haven't. I will tell you where I've stayed in Louisiana.
Okay.
I've stayed in Monroe, Louisiana when I went to work at CenturyLink.
No
I work
way.
for CenturyLink.
I have a lot of friends that work for CenturyLink in Monroe, Louisiana.
Yeah. And so I work for them as well. And So I've been down there in July where my clothes got ironed onto my body. And let's see. And
nobody wants to be in this state during July.
No.
No one.
And the mosquitoes. But yeah, been there, been to New Orleans, and then we went to Slidell in May a couple years ago because there was a grocery store there that carried guava berry rum. And so we went out of our way to go get guava berry rum from Smith's grocery store.
Guava, I'm writing this down. Guava berry rum, Slidell, Smith's grocery.
They sell it in almost probably, you can just look online to find it, but they probably sell it in your local grocery store.
I'm going to look this up. So I have an interesting Monroe anecdote that I think you'll like. And that is the Monroe, Louisiana Zoo reached out to me saying, we think this zoo is haunted. We're hoping that you could come do a paranormal investigation. And who in their right mind could ever say no to spending the night at a zoo looking for ghosts? So that's something I'm really hoping I'm able to knock out in 2020, and specifically before the summer, because I do not want to be outside during the summer overnight with the mosquitoes, I think, which might be more dangerous than the zoo animals. That's something I'm really excited about.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting. I'd say the only thing I know a few things there, this restaurant that has the stuffed catfish.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love that place. Yes, I've eaten there twice. So both times I went, I ate there. And that place is excellent. The Pecan Grove at the campus there has spirits in it. There's a lot of spirits in there. You can see them running from tree to tree.
Really?
Yeah. I said something to my boss, and he said something to me. He goes, "What?" I said, "Oh, I forgot. You don't care." But we were coming into town, and I remember looking over, and he pointed out the fact that there was a palm reader on the road. And then when we get to Vegas, on another trip with my boss, the first thing he points out was, "Look, there's a palm reader." I'm like, do you have to point them out every time we go anywhere? So, but yeah, I liked going to Monroe for mostly the food.
Absolutely. So, it's not easy to lose weight in this state.
And the airport, it was funny. The one time we went, the lights went out on the runway. And so they had to close the airport until they got the lights fixed. And they called my house. They called my house at 3:00 in the morning. And Ron goes, the phone kept ringing. He goes, I didn't know. He goes, I had no clue what it was. And my boss called me and said, yeah, our flight's been canceled. And I was like, okay. And Ron calls me at 3:30 in the morning. He goes, Delta Airlines keeps calling you.
To let you know they did not pay the power bill.
Actually, they were doing construction on the airport. I think somebody unplugged the extension cord is what I think it was.
I literally went to that. There's a tiny airport. It's a small town. It's like 40,000 people. Literally went to that airport once to pick up a friend. And the only like security guy there was sound asleep with his head down on his desk. And I thought, thankfully, nobody's wanting to attack this airport.
Oh, yeah. There's only four gates at the airport.
Yeah.
And so when we flew in the first time I flew in, I didn't have to stop at the airport or at the gate because of the fact that I was on a private plane and it was down past where the gates are.
Okay.
You know, so I was on a private plane that time, but the second time we did have, I flew Delta, and they take you off this really nice big plane in Atlanta and then move you onto this plane that you're going, can it make it?
Yeah.
But they kept warning us, don't take too much stuff because they may leave it at the airport and have to bring it to you on another flight.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And that they also told me that on the private plane, though. The private plane, I was limited. But Monroe is an unusual place, and it's not because of Duck Dynasty.
No.
It's an unusual place, period.
It absolutely is.
And it's got an interesting haunted history. Since I didn't drive, I couldn't go around and check stuff out. But
that's a shame.
when we pulled in to get into the parking lot, I was looking over there and I saw in the pecan grove all these things running through there. And so it's an interesting place. And if you ever get a chance to go to Monroe on your way to Shreveport or any place else, go check it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of haunted history there. There's a lot.
It is. And I said, they offered me a chance to move there and I declined because I didn't think that there would be if I lost my job, how would I get another job?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But you probably know a lot of people that went to, Louisiana at Monroe and all that. So, it's, if you went to Louisiana Tech, of course, I mean, everybody knows everybody in all those schools.
Exactly.
So, there was some other questions I wanted to ask. Oh, and another place that's really, like I said, when I was talking about Mineral Springs, it's a small paracon on its third year that does excellent business. So we had a lot of people there last year, and
that's Mineral Springs.
Yeah, Alton, Illinois is a very it's one of the most haunted towns in the country.
Okay.
So
I heard that from, again, that's one I remember because I've gotten that one from so many people.
Well, most people knew about, the Mineral Springs Hotel had been on Scariest, Most Terrifying Places in America.
Right.
A long time ago. Probably when that show, probably the year the show came out the first time. And then on a show called Ghost Stories. Long time ago. This was back I lived in the other house, so it had to be in the 90s, early 90s. And McPike Mansion and Mineral Springs were both on that. It was a 6 VHS set. We bought all 6 VHSs and we watched them all. And we still have them. I
bet you wore those things out, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And I saw these on there, and the first time I saw this place, I was like, Ron, you're from St. Louis. It's right across the river. Have you been there? Oh, yeah, I've been a lot of times. I used to go there to drink. Did you ever go to any of these places? No, but you know what? After we went through there on our first tour, basically we did the same thing. I took us on a tour of town based on a book called Haunted Alton. And when he drove by Mineral Springs, he goes, oh, I've been by here all the time, a bunch of times. But it took us a while to find McPike Mansion. So, and like I said, now we're volunteers for McPike, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's an amazing place, and watch it change over the years. And that's what you look for in a lot of these places. What have they done with the money that you've been paying to go to these places all the time?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see the transformation. And Myrtle's is one that had a lot of money spent on it, especially with the fire. I mean, they've had a few fires there, haven't they? I mean, the last one was in the gift shop.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the reasons I was really happy to be able to bring this paranormal investigation we did in my local hanging jail. It was actually on most terrifying places in America a couple of months back. And it's a situation where they do tours daily through the jail for just $5. And they're trying to get more money, and the whole thing's a nonprofit because they want to fix it up so it doesn't have to get torn down one day. That's one of the reasons I was really excited to be able to bring people in from around the country. I think we had people from 7 states come in, and I'm hoping to do more there, literally to help get it fixed up, to help make it nice again. Because as places like that go, whole towns can go, people let their downtowns go and they start falling apart. And you can really let a whole community slip away that way. And so, these beautiful old buildings that we go to all the time for these investigations, that's a big thing that I think a lot of people need to focus on is helping to make sure the money goes to the right places, that it goes to a means of keeping them kind of not only fixing them up, but keeping them up so they don't fall into disrepair.
Oh, yeah. And our friend that bought McPike, it was in pretty bad disrepair when she got it. And she's put a lot of money into it. But you can watch that in all these places, like Malvern Manor. He's put some money into it, and it's now safer than it was before to be walking around. There's other place, Ashmore Estates by Robin Terry has done an excellent job getting that place to where it's safe. And you want to support those places that are doing their best to keep the locations open, not only for the paranormal, but for the factual history of those places.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm all for, is that, keeping these places open. They almost tore down the Edgar Allan Poe home in downtown Baltimore in Fells Point.
I remember hearing about that, and it was just unbelievable that would even be considered, but kind of what you're saying, like, you want it to stay there for the history, but sometimes the history doesn't make the money. But if paranormal can, then people should definitely kind of focus as much as they can on what will make the money to bring it in, to keep it up for everyone.
Yeah, especially as long as they're focusing on it, exploit it in a good way.
Yes, exactly. That's a really good way to put it, because we all know there are places that can be really poor, like completely exploitative, like 100%. Nobody wants that, but there's a way to do it to get people interested, get people in for the right reasons.
I think so. And, I know that you just did this first public one, and you said you guys it was pretty much sold out, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had 20 tickets available, and it was, by the way, it was very last minute. Like, Shane Pittman hit me up about this. And he's like, look, and then, again, he hit me up about this right, I think 2 days before Christmas. Like, let's put together this ghost hunt. I'm like, okay, when are you thinking? March? He's like, I can't do it after January 25th. And I thought, oh man, because number one, right after Christmas, everybody in the country is broke, especially if you have kids. Oh, yeah. And number two, that means very last minute. So plane tickets, if anybody's going to fly in, it's going to be pretty expensive. And I was really pleasantly surprised how many people came in from how many different states. We sold out all 20 tickets with like a week left to go. And it gave me hope on doing more of these in the future, bringing more people to this town to help out that building, and possibly do more, maybe even the Monroe Zoo, which would be amazing.
Well, I'm going to ask you a few more questions when we get back from this next break, but maybe here's one you can answer pretty quick. Do you have any more events coming up anytime soon?
Not yet, but I'm hoping to get one. I'm hoping to get one put together and out here in the next month or so. I'm hoping to do something in March, and hopefully I'll have the information for that out in the next couple of weeks.
So, well, I can't wait to see where you're going to be. The bad part is, with us living right in the middle of the country, most everybody's going somewhere other than here because we get such horrible snows. This year it's not. Earlier today it was 63, and yesterday it was 71. We're getting snow like tomorrow.
Here right now, like it's going to be 38 here in a couple of days, but today it was kind of like a nice early spring day out there. I was able to sit on the back porch and enjoy the sun, and that has been rare lately.
Oh yeah. And today it started out nice and sunny, and then suddenly it's like, oh crap!
We're
it's
back.
Dark.
Winter's back.
And well, you know what though? The good news is it means that there's not flooding in Iowa right now. It's still drying up.
I'm glad to hear that.
It was still bad when we went in November. There was still water on both sides of the highway. So it was still very high. Yeah. Wow. So having it be as dry as it's been, I'm happy, for everybody up there. So, but yeah, it was nice yesterday. It's nice today. It was nice on Saturday too. So we look forward to that. But everybody, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'll be back with James in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride, and I'm here with James B. McDaniel, and I hope everybody has asked their questions and all that. But there was one question I did forget to ask.
Ooh, what's that?
This question is from Kat. She asked, earlier back when we were talking about, you said about what you were paying attention to and all that. Did you ever read Fate magazine?
I did read Fate magazine when I was a kid. Absolutely. Again, I had a magical childhood and I appreciated it when I was a kid, but I don't know if any kid can appreciate as much as they do. My dad had a newsstand. So every new magazine, every comic book, like I think more newspapers than anybody else in the state, every paperback, he had everything. And every day after school, I'd get picked up, I'd be dropped off there and I would just go sit and read. I read every comic book, and that's been actually a problem in focusing in on one career in life. Because while I read all the paranormal stuff, I read like all the video game magazines. I read all the news magazines. I'm this weird kid who in junior high has a giant bag with him filled with comic books, like U.S. News and World Report, like Omni, like all the weird magazines. So I absolutely read Fate back in the day.
Well, it's funny you should say video games because a guy I worked with is now the owner of Rogue Games.
No way.
Yeah, we used to work together at Sprint back a long time ago. So
that's pretty amazing.
I introduced my son-in-law to him because he's like, I love their stuff. And I was like, well, maybe they're hiring, And he goes, how do you know him? I said, I was the secretary of the group, so everybody talked to me back then.
What's amazing is, like, I remember my dad thinking, the video games are a fad, and now video games make as much or more than movies, and they put as much money into them as movies. They're so huge now.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is I'm not real big into the types of video games my friend makes, of course. I mean, right. I'm not into the shoot 'em up things. But you know what? It's fun to say, hey, I used to be the secretary of the group. I used to do his travel plans and used to break stuff for him in the lab because that was my job in the lab was to break stuff.
Oh, that's great.
So then we have another question, and this has to go back to when you were talking about the same thing. Have you ever seen a UFO?
I absolutely have. So when I was little, I would see things in the sky that I kind of thought were UFOs, but the 100% UFO sighting I had, I think it was around, let's say 2001, 2002. I was nearing the end of college. I was home for the summer, and I got in this habit when I talk on the phone. Generally, I walk. I like to walk around. And I'd been out in our front yard here in my hometown of DeRidder, Louisiana, my parents' front yard. And I just hung up the phone with somebody and I was about to walk back in. And I look up at the sky and I think, and my eye just caught something. I couldn't quite process what I'd seen. I looked back up again and I realized, like, I'm seeing stars everywhere except this one spot, this huge spot. There's no stars. And then that spot started to move very slowly. And I realized it was a perfect triangle. It was one of those, again, it's very famous right now, going all the way back, I believe, to the X-Files, the black triangular aircraft. This thing was huge. It was very low. I could only tell it was there because it was blocking out the stars behind it. And when I say huge, I mean the size of like a football field, huge. And it started slowly moving away. And I'm like yelling for people in the house to come out, and nobody hears me in time. And it moved so slow. But what still strikes me to this day is the fact that it wasn't moving at all when I first saw it. So it was as big as a football field, could stand completely still and make no noise. And for some reason, to this day, I don't think it was an alien craft. While I do 100% believe in UFOs and I 100% believe alien crafts visit this planet, I think this was like a government aircraft. It feels like it was. I think the shape makes me feel like it was, and probably something reverse engineered if you put a gun to my head, because there's not a lot of physics out there right now that says we can have a ship that big stand completely still over a residential neighborhood and make no noise.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Have you ever seen a stealth bomber?
I have, and that's kind of because they have some in Shreveport, Louisiana at Barksdale Air Force Base, and that's why I think at the time, because I'd had those fly over me back in the day during college, that's kind of what makes me think, like, I was like, man, I really think this is a next generation stealth ship of some sort. I think that's really what I was thinking to myself at the time, while I was totally blown away at just what a rare opportunity it was to see this thing.
It is. I know we've seen all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, guess what? I have a family member who's an astronaut. And so
that's one way you can one up everybody at dinner parties.
Oh, yeah. He tells us all the time about the fact that there are no unidentified objects. NASA knows what they are.
Ooh, I like that.
And so I want to have him on my show, but he can't because he has that NDA, and not NDA. It's something else with the military, but who cares? He can't talk about it.
I have a friend who has a very similar job. I can't say his name, but he works with I can say where he works. He works for it's called DIUX, for Defense Innovation Unit Experimental. And he's a guy that I do this kind of infrequently. I'm going to try and make it weekly. I do this Facebook Live show called Haunted Life. And I had Shane Pittman on as a guest. I want to have more guests. And he's somebody I would love to have on because he knows all the cutting edge science, like things that a lot of people don't know we can do. He knows about it, but he can't talk about it. And that's really frustrating. And and you clearly know exactly what I'm talking about there.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'd love to spend some more time with my cousin and learn more. Luckily, his dad is my cousin too, so it's my cousin's son. Okay. They make sure that I hear all about it every time we go to visit Bristol. So it's always interesting. And let's see, Ron goes, it's called Top Secret, Denise. And I did make a UFO video, but we knew what it was. It was a space station. I was being
very
goofy.
Cool.
I was being goofy.
Since we're talking about space, real quick, I'm going to give just a TV recommendation. It is on a channel nobody has, which is the new Apple Plus TV service. For All Mankind is kind of an alternative history about the early days of the space race. It is maybe one of the best shows on TV right now, and nobody watches it. So if you're listening and you're into space, go get your free week or whatever Apple TV and watch and binge that show. It is really good.
I will do that. So now, before we get much further, I want to make sure we ask the question, where can everybody find James B. McDaniel?
This is easy. Online, I am everywhere at Peppermint Fatty. That is Fatty, because I say I am red, white, and round. It all was born from a joke when I was young because there was the Peppermint Patty cartoon character, and I used to say that when I started getting a little chunky, Mom would call me Peppermint Fatty, but she did not. And you can follow me there on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Peppermint Fatty. Except on Twitch, which I'm not on very often, it's X Peppermint Fatty X, because some butthole went and got Peppermint Fatty, and I'm gonna get it back one day.
I saw quite a few out there when I was searching.
Did you?
Yes, I did. I was looking to find different links, and it's like, well, you pretty much got them all covered in the one link.
Yeah,
where you can just go to that and click on it and find everything you want to find. So, and I did see when Chip and Joanna offered you $10,000 or a car that you couldn't barely fit in.
Exactly. And I had no idea that was coming. That was this last October at their annual Celebration, and they called me up on stage, which I did not expect. I was just kind of wandering around. I was supposed to be in this VIP area, and I was driving these handlers crazy because they knew I was going to get called up on stage, and I'm just off in the back somewhere, like trying to buy a burrito from a food truck. And they finally wrangle me up there and they call me on stage. And it was really, really sweet because they talked about how I made the first tweet that ever had Fixer Upper in it, and how basically me interacting with Chip got him interacting with more fans. I was giving him tips back in the day on how to use Twitter, how to really focus on Twitter. And I actually came up with a hashtag for all the people that were watching Fixer Upper and talking together called Live Tweet Crew. And they talked about how it originally was like a dozen of us, and then it grew to hundreds and then thousands. And they kind of gave me credit for them being the first HGTV show to ever trend on Twitter. And they said that they don't think they would have been picked up for a second season if it wasn't for that. And they kind of wanted to do something nice for me. So they offered me, they said I had like 30 seconds to choose. They said either this car, and it was one of those tiny Smart for Twos, which was orange, by the way. And if you haven't seen me, I am very orange. I have a big orange beard, a lot of orange hair. And I thought, oh man, number one, I don't think that car could hold the amount of butter it would take for me to slide in and out of that little thing. And so I just immediately said the money, which was $10,000, which was just amazingly kind. And for anybody that doesn't know, like Chip and Joanna Gaines, they had their show Fixer Up, where they've built like this industry in Waco that's doubled the tourism to that town. And now they're about to have their own network. They are the most genuinely kind people I have ever met, and they deserve their success more than maybe anybody I've ever met. Because Chip Gaines is a guy who will just get on Twitter when he's bored and say, who needs some help? Tell me what you need help with. I'm here to help. And people say, oh, my power drill died, and I'm a carpenter, and I've got it. And he sends them a $500 gift card to Lowe's. They are amazing people, and they do with their money what I think all of us think our best selves would do if we all of a sudden became millionaires. And that's just a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. A couple years ago when the Joanna's cookbook came out, the Magnolia cookbook.
Yes.
One of the girls, the one that wants to meet Chris, that's what she got me for Christmas. So,
that's awesome.
And I never ever watched the show. Of course, we're never watching anything live, so We're always catching up on what we've taped. But I used to watch HGTV when it first came out all the time. Right. And so I know that there is excellent programming on HGTV. So, but yeah, Chip and Joanna Gaines seem to be really nice people. In fact, Ron was talking to me about them last night, about how he'd heard what good people they are. Yeah. And the thing is he has no clue about HGTV. He saw them on Fox News.
There you go.
So,
and I think the fact that I think people can tell generally, you can tell when somebody's truly, again, before they'd ever met me, I'd never met them in person at this point. I just posted a picture of me in the hospital, and I made a joke about how I caught some feelings and I went to the hospital for the doctors to cut them away. And, and next thing I know, I get a big package in the mail. They sent me Star Wars Band-Aids, a Starbucks gift card, an Amazon gift card, all these little things just because of that. And again, they'd never met me. They had no reason to do any of those things for me. They are truly wonderful people.
Well, apparently you've done something to make them think that you're a good person too. I'm not saying that you're not. I'm not saying you're not, but that they think that you are an excellent person and a good place to spend some of their money to make sure you can get from point A to point B.
Right. Which again could not be more appreciative of them. Also, I just want to say to anybody listening that are people I interact with on a regular basis, fans, people that watch my stuff, I cannot thank all of y'all enough. It always feels undeserving to be invited on the podcast for people to buy tickets to come ghost hunt with me. And I just want everybody to know how much I genuinely appreciate it.
Well, when I told people you were coming on the show, I know that a bunch of people were very excited to hear that you were coming on. And me, of course, I was ecstatic. But, you know, it's nice to have someone who truly wants to be on here and doesn't feel like this is just another part of their day. And I know that you missed out on live tweeting during a show tonight to be on here with us, and I appreciate that.
Well, it's always exciting it's always exciting when somebody wants to talk to you. And unless it's absolute, like, can't miss work, if somebody wants to talk to me, I want to talk to them. And I've really had a wonderful time tonight. This has been such a fun show to do.
Well, hopefully you can get on again some other time and tell us about what's going on in the future, because I can't wait to see what you're doing next. And
that's what I'll do. I'll let you know when I have a big announcement to make.
Please do, and I will make sure that it gets out there, because if you want people to know stuff, I'm the person to tell. And if you're the person that doesn't want people to know stuff, I'm the person to tell, because I only tell stuff I'm supposed to share, not the stuff I'm not supposed to share. So, but I would like to thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, please tune in next week when I have David Glidden on. He wants to make an announcement about some of the stuff that he's working on for paranormal studies. I can't wait to hear what it's about. And he's also going to be talking about his new para concert that we'll be in Vegas for, so we won't be able to go. But everybody else can go down to Joplin, Missouri for his para concert Labor Day weekend. So please tune in next week to WBHM-DB.com. And please, if you didn't hear the whole show, there will be an archive of this out there so you can hear the rest of it later. So thank you all and have a great week. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Warning, the following message does not necessarily reflect the views of WBHM-DB or its hosts, guests, listeners, or of any functioning adult in general. In fact, Frank should probably seek professional help. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, Frank Lee here. I thought that I would spend a few moments telling you about the positivity from the network here. The overall message of para-unity and happiness, and how everyone here wants to get along with everyone out there, and how everything is just wonderful. Wait, Cat's not looking. Okay, I've got something to really tell you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's really going on. Honestly, all that being nice and positive crap was kind of hurting my soul, as dark as it is. So, what's really happening? Well, you see it all the time. Everybody and their brother out there has a paranormal team because they watched a couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters or some crap like that. So they go and they spend half their mortgage payment on tools and things that light up that they don't understand. And then the next logical step, after buying matching black t-shirts and posing like 90s rappers for their Facebook page, is to, of course, have their own podcast. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that crap here. What we have here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting is the best host, the best guest, bringing you real information. All of the hosts here on this network know their stuff. They are the people who have been out there doing the work, doing actual research. And no, by research, I don't mean binge watching some kind of cheesy TV show on Netflix. I mean reading books. I mean out in the field doing the legwork. And who are they interviewing on their shows? They're bringing you the people they have learned from. They're bringing you the best in the field, covering all kinds of topics from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot to cryptozoology to ghosts to anything you can think of, a bit strange and unexplained. It is here, and you're going to get the best information here. So stay tuned to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, I've got to go before my mic gets cut. We'll see you there on WBHM-DB.